Friendly Fire Show, episode 193 for the start of 2022. We've been gone for a month. We've had some Twitch things. Thanks for just pretending it's cool. I am Steve from Stevivor. Joining me is Ben from Stevivor. I've been from plus 36 weather to minus 36 weather, back to plus 36 weather. How has your start of the year been, Ben?
Oh, well, you've had a wild trip. You've gone on a plane overseas, which is so crazy in 2022. I don't think I'll ever do that again at this rate. So, yeah.
You
Well,
could
for the viewer, you've been to Canada, you've been back home.
Yes, you can still see where the mask, like, basically has been sitting on my face on the plane for like 36 hours straight, and I was diligent. I didn't take that thing off. Like, I was good. The weird thing was, I had to go back for some family reasons that I'm like, whatever. We're not talking about that. But a whole bunch of people that I play hockey with went like to Europe or back to Canada, and like pretty much
Mm.
everybody else got COVID, and I didn't. So like, I felt like a ninja, like dipping and dodging and diving. Not that at this stage I feel like it's anybody's like fault if they get COVID in the way things are. But I was just trying to be really diligent. And can we
Mm.
just get off that topic, please, before I dig a hole?
Well, we can move it along to some various games that are out. We've been gone for a month and things have happened. There've actually been some releases in early January, which is kind of rare. And there's a few more to come, so we can kick it off there. Now, in standard Friendly Fire Show fashion, I played about 10 minutes of two of these, and I saw the other one at E3 like 3 years ago. So that's me. It's mainly you again. But why don't we start with Rainbow Six Extraction, because that is a Game Pass game. So pretty much everyone listening probably has played it because we're very much a Game Pass Pro show these days.
Yes, and as I will, if you're watching on Twitch TV.Stevivor right now as we're live, you'll see some gameplay from Hamish. So, and I know he's there because he was saying that he was listening to me big sighing. So hi Hamish, and hi Jay as well, and one other person. I don't know who that other person is. So we'll play his video. This is going smoothly so far. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel, Stevivor, or you can just listen to us, which is far less chaotic. It's just us talking and talking about things you can't see. Anyway, Xbox Game Pass, PC Game Pass, really, unless you only own a PlayStation, there's no reason to not try Extraction. I'm absolutely loving it. I've been playing it for a while, and I just think it's really neat. I'm not like super good at the likes of a Rainbow Six Siege, this is basically Siege with a
Same thing, yeah.
fancy DLC kind of skin new game. Is it not a new game thing on it? So you play as a bunch of operators from Siege in a 3-person format, either with yourself solo or with like 3 other people. Or 2 other people, I should say, because you're a group of 3, trying to do certain tasks. So you go to one of 4 main maps. There's 3 sections inside each of those 4 main maps, and there's 3 objectives that are tied to one little sub-map of each land. You either have to plant trackers on nests, or extract someone, or to take out a high-value target, or da-da-da-da-da. And it's kind of like GTFO. It's very strategic, and it's very tactical, and it's not... A lot of people have been comparing it to Left 4 Dead, which I don't think is accurate, because Left 4 Dead, you basically just go from A to B and try to survive. This is very strategic. You're supposed to be working with your teammates to do A, B, or C. So it's the Rainbow Six people... and there's an alien parasite that's landed on the Earth, and you're supposed to try to combat that. There's a whole bunch of alien parasite, archaean enemy types. There's just, like grunts where you just do a headshot and they're done. There's bloaters or breachers, which have like a big kind of egg sac on their back, and if you hit that, it explodes. If you do headshots on some of those grunts, obviously it's silent and it's tactical, and you try to stealthily move throughout the world. If you shoot an egg sac, it explodes and there's noise, and enemies kind of try to figure out what's going on, and it's bad. There's also nests that you need to try to stop because they spew out the enemies. And it's just really quite enjoyable. If you succeed, there's still risk attached, because if you take damage, you can find health in a level, but the health doesn't really like go back to your health bar. It kind of just adds a bonus for the time being. So if you're at like 20 health and you get a health bar or a health pack, you go to, whatever, 60. but you kind of lose that when you extract. Or you can just die and be taken out. A weird foam goes over your body, and you're basically dead in the water unless a teammate will extract you. If you don't get extracted, you have to basically extract yourself, either as a solo or as a group. I feel like I'm doing a horrible job of explaining this. You've only played a little bit, Ben. How have I done explaining it so far? And do you have questions or clarifications? That's a better way of putting it.
Not, I mean, the 10 minutes I played was very much felt like Rainbow Six Siege with some like Last of Us style enemies. So that seems to be the gist. And yeah, something I think we should play as a group. I think that's where it'll be most fun. And I think like most co-op games like that will fall off immediately because we'll try to play with some randoms and it will suck. But if you actually had a regular crew who wanted to play it, you'd probably be quite into it. So feels like that type of game, which is not really for us long term, as we recently learnt with Back for Blood. But yeah, so that's why I played very much.
It's so I had a code before it was live, and I knew that Hamish was reviewing it but playing with friends, so I couldn't really jump into his group of three. There is a quick play where you can just join other people and play with other people. That's how basically, if I've been playing in a group, that's how I've been doing it. And sometimes it works really well because you just kind of use all the tools at your disposal. Each of the siege operators has gadgets to detect heartbeats, which isn't, the arcanes aren't heartbeats, but it detects nests and other things, and there's other gadgets that other people have. If you're using all those tools as a group of three or as a solo operator, you're fine. There can be times where you quick play with people and they just like run in and shoot everything like they think it's Left 4 Dead, and that causes commotion and brings everybody to you, and the nests are spewing out bad guys, and it's horrible. It's weird that like you could almost play this solo on the lower difficulties and have fun, but then progression is tied to difficulty and objective fulfillment, so like you won't progress very quickly, and that's tied to operator abilities and advancements, and it's also tied to like new maps, and it's tied to new modes, and you kind of want to progress as quickly as you can to get to the good bits. I forget what the good thing is called. The Maelstrom Protocol, I think that's what it's called. It's probably not called that. Like one of those really cool like chains. So the normal mode is 3 sub maps in a map, and Maelstrom Protocol, if that's what it's called, is like a string of a whole bunch with different mutators that make it more difficult. Nests can be armored. There can be those stupid yellow orbs attached to bad guys, which are like blinding spores. If they explode on you, you can't see for a bit. Whole bunch of different mutations. Those are the things that make it really, really fun. But then there's also these studies that are attached to levels where you need to, stealth kill 10 enemies or kill 10 stun enemies. And you can do most of those individually until you get to the study that's like, go through and extract as a team of 3. And you're like, well, okay, I guess I got to find either friends to play with, or I got to quick play with idiots to play with, and hopefully you don't find idiots. But yeah, I think it would be better if you and I at least played as a team of 2 and brought on a random. Depending on how you go, it is pretty enjoyable. Have you played the new Kit Fox Games, I think published, not developed, Xbox Game Pass game called Pupperazzi? I know you have a puppy at home. People who were waiting for the stream might have heard of you talking about your puppy.
Well, when it was on the rundown, I played it for a good 12 minutes at least. I attempted to play using cloud gaming, so I didn't have to waste time downloading it. And so this is basically Pokemon Snap with dogs, right? That was the gist that I got. You walk around taking photos of puppies. Pretty much it.
100%. You've nailed it. I'm so proud of you, Ben. Well done. Did you like what you played, or was it just kind of like, well, this is Pokemon Snap with dogs?
Yeah, and to be honest, I've never really understood Pokemon Snap either. Like, okay. I guess it kind of was a novelty on the 64 because it was like a 3D game and you got to see a bunch of 3D models that you'd only seen on Game Boy really before then. I'm not interested in the new one that came out recently, so that novelty again, but with dogs, doesn't make that much sense to me. Yeah, you can jump and you get an achievement for taking your photos. Like, that's basically it. Like, there's not that much more incentive to keep playing. I suppose there's a bunch of different levels, but ultimately you're taking pictures of, relatively clone-ish dogs. They all look pretty similar to me, so It's kind of like a Ubisoft game where you have like 6 different enemy types, but you have 6 different dog types, and that's it.
I'm trying to be one of the dogs. Yeah, like it's pretty basic, but it's one on Game Pass. Two has a pretty easy achievement list. Three, after I've been parkouring and like falling off a building 5 times and
Relaxing.
getting super frustrated, it's like just a nice game to pop into and like throw a bone at a dog and pet it and take a photo of, which I know is kind of lame, but like it's one of those like haha fun games. I also
Yeah.
tried playing Nobody Saves the World on Game Pass for like a hot second and just didn't like it. It's by Drinkbox, who did Guacamelee and Guacamelee 2, but like just not feeling it. I'm super bad for questions on the Twitch chat, and people have asked if it's beyond repair or will late fixes potentially redeem it. I think there's a lot that's there that's good, but it's just like the weird stuff that for me, at least in the build I'm playing, is a teeny bit broken. So there's room to fix that kind of stuff. Seems very cyberpunky in many ways. Like there's stuff that like it's like 95% there, but depending on how you access it, might just be like completely busted until it's fixed. So yes, I think it's definitely able to be repaired, but hopefully a patch comes before the review. Haha. Anyway, let's get into the news. Ben, I know that you have never heard of two white guys talking about Microsoft acquiring Activision Blizzard on a podcast yet. So, do you want to talk about Microsoft acquiring Activision Blizzard on our podcast?
Well, we very much have to because it's massive news no matter how late it is. Because when they bought Bethesda, Microsoft going out and buying another publisher was just a huge deal, and they've absolutely trumped that by buying a much larger publisher, a publisher which had already merged with another large publisher. So now it's just this giant thing. Um, and yeah, it's very much. I saw a lot of people initially worried about it being a monopoly, and then I saw a pretty good rundown of why it's not really a monopoly if you break it down a little bit more, in terms of what they've actually achieved here. So if you just look at the platform, Xbox is a pretty clear number three behind PlayStation and Nintendo. So acquiring Activision doesn't necessarily improve their console platform. If you look at their Windows platform, obviously that's the bulk of PC, but there are multiple storefronts there. So they're going up against Steam and against Epic, and so variety there. And then you look at mobile, like Google and Apple are dominating that market. So I know they get Candy Crush with this deal, but they don't have that much there. So when you kind of break it down more like that, I think them having a few more big name developers and franchises doesn't make as big of a deal as you might think if you just look at games exclusive on Xbox. And these are not going exclusive to Xbox, they're going exclusive to Microsoft's various platforms. So you better play them on console, you better play them on PC and also on mobile, and probably soon just direct to TV. Pretty much everywhere except PlayStation. But even then, there's going to be some stuff there. So they're not going to pull everything as we've seen with other platforms. If they continue Crash Bandicoot, I bet you they put that on Switch as well. I think they've got some plans on what they're going to do with that. And yeah, I think they'll do a better job. Of all the publishers they could acquire, Activision Blizzard was in a bad way, from their internal issues through to what they were even doing with their games, right? So like, it was just CODs, and even CODs having difficulty. Like Sledgehammer had a lot of trouble getting Vanguard out. It was one of the weaker CODs for a while. I think pushing Raven to then have to just be a support studio when they'd done some pretty good stuff just before then, bringing back Crash Bandicoot, then kind of just leaving it. Bringing back Tony Hawk 1 and 2 and kind of assuming would get 3 and 4 as well, but that never happened. I feel like Phil is a man who knows what he wants to do, and I think he'll plan out these studios much better. And he'll bring back some like wild, small, weird little franchises from ages ago. But I think he'll kind of get those main ones, which have they did come back. They put in the work to bring back Crash well, bring back Spyro as a remaster, to bring back Tony Hawk, and then they just stopped. Like they kind of ended that good work. So I think he'll be right onto that. Get more variety. The thing which, out of its many studios and IPs that Microsoft didn't have, was still that kind of a couple of G-rated franchises. Like, unless they're going to bring Blinks back from the dead, and Blinks was no good. So they've got Banjo and Kazooie, but they don't really use that. They've been promoting the fact that that's on Switch more than they have that it's been on Xbox for ages.
Yep.
But I think Crash is so much bigger that they're going to use it. Like And there's no ignoring the fact that that was a PlayStation mascot, but PlayStation never
No,
owned it.
not a. That was the PlayStation
Yeah.
mascot. It's insane.
And yeah, so PlayStation somehow got in a situation where they kind of borrowed a mascot and they were never actually theirs. At least not to the degree that they ended up with it. They lost it in a complicated kind of way. Sidebar to this, some news which is not here but is very vaguely related, is we found out, still yet to be announced, that apparently GoldenEye is finally coming, right? So that achievement list got leaked.
Yeah.
There were two big parts to that. It's just kind of funny because when that game, which was available to magically acquire off the internet last year, was originally coming out on Xbox in like 2008, 9, something like that. The talk then was basically that Microsoft had decided to make it with Rare, kind of doing a full remaster, and then they just needed to get Nintendo on board, which some people say that's where it fell down. Then they also needed to get MGN and Eon, who own the Bond license, and then Activision, who owned the game license at the time. So kind of funny now that they've just ended up with Activision, who may have been the reason that game never got released, along with Nintendo. And now it looks like it is going to get released, probably unrelated to, actually definitely unrelated, because they no longer have that license. So just a funny way things turn out. And hopefully that does happen, actually. That would be a good release.
Just no odd job. Specifics of the deal, $67.8 billion in cash. What? I imagine like just trucks rolling up to Activision Blizzard just dumping piles of cash, which isn't obviously the case. That means, so like Activision Blizzard is the IP that's currently out there, which isn't a lot that's currently out there if we're thinking about it. There's a lot of franchises that are not done and dusted, but like just not being developed properly. Dormant, that's the good word for it. Call of Duty is obviously the big one. Candy Crush with King. Blizzard is the likes of Overwatch, Diablo, Hearthstone, Here's the Storm, StarCraft, Warcraft, World of Warcraft, if you want to make a differentiation there. But there are all these studios attached, like Toys for Bob, which, to your point, Ben, when you were talking about like G-rated Xbox games, like Toys for Bob is perfect for that. They've done Spyro, they've helped with Crash, they did Skylanders. So, like, and now that Xbox owns all of these franchises, like there could be a Disney Infinity or a Skylanders-esque kind of. Well, I don't think there's going to be like amiibos on Xbox or like the likes of that, but there's the opportunity or the possibility those things could happen. Raven Software, who did one of my favorite games of all time, Star Trek Voyager Elite Force, has just been basically a Call of Duty studio that's supplemented the real Call of Duty studios like High Moon, like kind of Beanox of late. Beanox did a whole bunch of really, really good Spider-Man games. There's all these really good studios that have kind of been relegated to like the B list. So they have talent, they have experience, and they have the ability to make really, really cool things. There could, like there's not going to be a Sunset Overdrive game because Insomniac has that IP, but there could be a Sunset Overdrive like game from the likes of Beanox, to combat Insomniac at Sony. So there's all these opportunities at Microsoft for what could be. There's all these, existing franchises and dormant franchises that also could be, obviously. There's, possibilities of World of Warcraft and StarCraft going to PC Game Pass, or maybe even making the leap to Xbox. And Phil Spencer said that Call of Duty is definitely going to be a multi-platform game. Whether or not in 2025 that holds up to the extent that you think it's going to hold up, I doubt it. I think maybe Call of Duty Warzone, the free-to-play version of the game, will certainly be across as many platforms as can be, like a Minecraft. But I think, and like you don't spend $67.8 billion or $68.7 billion at that point. Like, who cares? It's like chump change. You don't spend that much money to just be like, we'll just make things for PlayStation. So like we're seeing the likes of Starfield being an Xbox exclusive, we're going to see some of those IP just be pulled back a little bit on PC, on Xbox, or maybe, like if Phil thinks he has enough leverage to get an Xbox Game Pass app on PlayStation or on Switch, so you can play them there if you need to. I doubt that. I really doubt that.
I doubt that.
It'd be cool though. But like we're getting to this weird stage. where I don't think the console matters as much. We're getting to
No.
when we have the internet and the infrastructure that can support it, we're getting to streaming. So like there's not a point in the not too distant future where we're not going to have consoles, we're just going to have apps on our TV or something like that, where like the latency is okay and everything's just streaming. So this is a good move to get towards that. I don't think Sony's in a bad position either, because they have unique, really strong first party titles that people want to play. And want to get to. So like I don't like this isn't breaking Sony by any stretch. Sony's still the second biggest company, for lack of the right word, in games, behind Tencent and before Microsoft, even after this acquisition. So like I don't think there's monopolies. I don't think there's any problems in what's happened. I'm excited because Activision Blizzard's really stagnated and relied on the yearly releases and the milking things to the point of like exhaustion. So like I don't see this as a bad thing for the industry.
Yeah, I think that's probably positive considering where Activision had got themselves to. And they needed something to change, and they probably didn't expect it to be this, or we certainly didn't, but it will get that result of kind of rejuvenating them. So in Australian dollars, it's like 93 billion, just to give you a number that's even wilder. And yeah, you're right. They don't spend that to put Call of Duty on PlayStation for the next 20 years. I think it'll be there for a little while. I think Phil worded his tweet very carefully, because we will support this on platforms so long as our contracts, which are already signed, state we have to. I think you're right that it's not about the console exclusives as much for Microsoft anymore. That's very much Sony and Nintendo's way of making money, and they're operating a different way. But on that, if you look at other subscriptions, like having that exclusive killer content is why people go and subscribe. So you don't see Netflix kind of bring out, Squid Game and then also say, actually, it's going to be on free-to-air TV as well. Like it's going to be on Foxtel or whatever.
It'll
like
be on binge, yeah.
Yeah, it's very much we've got this thing you want to have right now. There's probably a better example than that when they've gone and they've got something which did exist elsewhere and now it's only on Netflix. Like buying Seinfeld or whatever it just did. It's getting that key content, and the old stuff is still out there on other platforms, so we've still supported it there, but that new stuff from now on is only going to be here. So, and yeah, by the time that happens and those existing contracts, don't worry, this year's Call of Duty, next year's, the year after, is probably already signed and, about to be delivered. I don't think any of those are going to suddenly stop being on PlayStation. So by the time this happens, I think you're right. We're going to have Xbox Game Pass on like every platform ever. And if Sony and Nintendo allowed it, Xbox would love to be there too. So yeah, they won't allow it, but Xbox would be happy with that.
And sort of to that kind of point that you were making before, like the likes of Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo they're not going to leave PlayStation. But like as soon as those exclusive contracts between Bethesda, before it became an Xbox game studio, and Sony, as soon as those contracts expire, we're going to get a Deathloop, we're going to get a Ghostwire Tokyo on Xbox. And like but like, to be honest, I'm fine with that mentality from Xbox. Like Elder Scrolls 6 probably isn't going to be on PlayStation by the time things roll around, unless there's a contract signed. And Starfield, there wasn't a contract signed, so that's definitely just an Xbox game. That's fine. Like, that's why Microsoft is spending the money to do it. You can still play it on PC. You can get it on Xbox. You don't have to buy the game. You can get Game Pass. Like, I don't feel this being problematic. And if people are like solely, truly just want to be PlayStation people, that's fine, because Microsoft is pretty good now at putting things out on Steam. I'm curious.
Yeah, it'll be on PC too.
Yeah.
So.
I'm curious as to whether Battle.net is going to survive, or if it's just going to like get closed up and chucked onto Steam, and you sign in with your Xbox, you go onto Steam, sign into Xbox, here's your World of Warcraft subscription, here's Overwatch. I would be happy with that. I think there's too many Epic Game Stores and Steams and Origins and Ubisoft Connects in the world. Like, I don't need a Blizzard, a Battle.net, but like, who knows? Like, there's so many things that we're not going to find out about, because like literally, one, they're probably not decided yet, and two, Microsoft and or Activision Blizzard can't say anything until the acquisition is complete, which is like probably June 2023 at this stage, or later. So, like, nothing changes in the short term. The Call of Duty game for the end of this year is going to come out on all platforms. Likely the Call of Duty game for next year is probably going to come out on all platforms. 2020, what year is it? 4 or 5? I'm bad at math. maybe we'll see some change. Like it's there's huge ramifications, but it's not instantaneous. So it'll be interesting to watch this space and see what happens next. And like, do you think? I don't think Microsoft can do any more giant acquisitions. I don't think they can go for a Sega anymore. I don't think they can go for a Capcom. They want like a Japanese presence, but I think they're kind of like testing the limits of goodwill at this stage.
Yeah. I think from what limited knowledge that I have, it's quite difficult for them as an American company to buy Japanese businesses anyway. I know they kind of try to block that at various stages. So like they got Tango because it was already part of Bethesda, I think. So whether they could even do that, I'm not sure. It'd be certainly easier for Sony to buy one of those if they decided they wanted to make a move now and get themselves more studios. Maybe if they're just trying to buy one or two, it would be easier. I do think they do probably need that. That's what they're missing is still that Japanese presence. Whether they really need to compete there, I'm not sure. They can still, use Xbox publishing and just get those contracts done for individual games. So that's certainly a way they can do it to get that content out. But yeah, I don't see a big one coming. Like there were rumors of Sega, as you said. Nothing that was rumored for about 2 years, so nothing came from that. There were rumors of Take-Two a little while ago, but they've just bought. I forgot who they bought, but they bought someone.
Zynga for
Zynga,
12.7 billion. I have no idea what Zynga makes, but that's fine. Words with Friends.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
think
not
so.
Wordle, is it? That's
that's free.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think they're gonna publish the size again. I'm sure if they said, "Hey, remember 20 years ago when we tried to buy you Nintendo and you laughed us out of the room?" Still interested? Like they would find a way to do that, but they'd get laughed out of the room again. So
yeah.
I don't see them going. There's not that many publishers left really. There's nothing to trump Activision. I would say that is more surprising. And I don't see them really going for any smaller ones. Like they're not going to get EA or Ubisoft. And best to leave them separate anyway. To go back to that Monopoly talk, like one of the arguments is, well, they both have I don't think they're streaming yet, but they have a subscription service. So they're kind of our competitors there. They probably don't want to buy them for that reason. And they're both much worse at it. Like it's kind of good to have them out there to be like, here's the B grade and we've got a good one. Yeah. So, and with EA Play, EA Access, whatever it's called now, in Game Pass, they don't even need to. Like it's already there. So.
And that's the good thing. And like another news item, Ubisoft Plus, I thought it was called Ubisoft Connect. It was definitely called Uplay once upon a time. That's coming in some way, shape, or form to Xbox as announcements
it's its own thing.
Ubisoft. Well, but like they didn't say it. Oh, that's the wrong. Whatever. I put up an article that's like the wrong headline. Whatever. It could be its own thing. It could be fused into Game Pass like EA Play. Ubisoft wouldn't say.
I think it means it isn't. They would have announced that.
I think you're right.
If it was the case. From what I could see, it was priced the same as Game Pass. So I think this will flop. And then I think they'll do like a entry-level tier like EA Play where you just get the old games through Game Pass. And if you want to do an add-on to get the new games, you can do that.
Rainbow Six Extraction, day one release on Game Pass. You don't have to have Ubisoft Plus or Connect or whatever the heck it's called. Like it's the Game Pass and Xbox. I know I am an Xbot for the lack of a better word, but like Xbox is really doing a lot of really good things. Like when we all play, everyone wins. Yes, it's a marketing thing. It's like a phrase, but like I feel like Phil at least. And I guess Satya Nadella, because he's trusting Phil, are actually
big trust.
Well, are like
170 mil, Phil. 70 bills, sorry.
But like they're talking the talk and walking the walk. And I was on the BBC News because I'm like, Sony won't let Fortnite be crossplay, and then Fortnite accidentally flicked it on. Like, and of course Sony's the big dog and they can do what they want. And I get why Sony doesn't turn on crossplay unless they absolutely have to. But if Xbox keeps operating like this, the way they are with the ecosystem and not just like the push to consoles, I'm okay with them taking Activision Blizzard and maybe Ubisoft, because like they went from God tier in my mind to like pushing NFTs, which okay, now I don't like you. I'm worried if, like Phil steps away or like Satya Nadella goes away and they're like, okay, now we need to be like the Bobby Koticks of like the world. Like that's problematic. I get that. But they have I trust Xbox right now, and I just hope that they never break that trust, because they're doing good things, and you can kind of play as you want to. If they could maybe make the Steam integration a bit better, and you didn't have to play an Xbox or PC Game Pass game in Windows 10 or 11, which is a little bit problematic still, and you could just like load it into Steam, like, then I would have nothing ever bad to say. But like, if you're not doing anything bad, this is all pro player, pro us. So like, I think that's fine. How's that?
Yeah, I think we're right to be wary of a gigantic corporation though, because of course they're going to do the right thing when they're for yet another generation. They're third in line for console sales, so they found a different path to try to get to people, and it seems to be working. But they've not got anywhere near their, they've got 25 million Game Pass subscribers. I think I saw somewhere that internally they plan to increase the price only once they get to 100 million. So there's obviously a few goals to get before you get there. So yeah, they have to be pro player. They have to get people on side. They have to have people like us saying they're doing a great job and very positive compared to, Sony and Nintendo both being quite anti-player a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Sony coming out with we're not going to give you a PS5 upgrade anymore, because I know we said that we would, but we didn't mean it the whole time. Yet Microsoft is not in a position where they can just do that. They need to kind of get people back on side. What happens when they do reach that, now we're second, not third, or now we're first in console sales, or now we've got 100 million subscribers? Then what do they do? Do they keep that up, or do they then say we need to make some of this money back, so let's go anti-player again?
Yeah, well, like the good thing about Microsoft is that it's not just Xbox, it's Office 365, it's all the hardware. Like they're third in gaming because that's the gaming. Like if you look at Microsoft on the whole, like,
yeah,
that's a different story. But like, I will forever rag on Sony for the likes of Uncharted Legacy of Thieves coming out later this week, where it's an old Uncharted 4 PS4 game and an old Lost Legacy PS4 game that are getting an upgrade to PS5, but you have to pay $15. And like, I know $15 isn't a lot of money, but on Xbox with Smart Delivery, like, you just get everything for free. It just goes up the chain. Like, here's your 4K, here's your better frame rate, here's this, here's that. And as soon as like Xbox starts doing those like dodgy things, like, I will pick at them with an ice pick too. Like, it's just like, you don't always have to be trying to make money, I hope. Like, I know everything's a business and that's kind of the model, but like, there's goodwill in doing the right thing, and then that makes me want to kind of spend more money on more things. Like, if I get Halo for free and I really like the cat ears, I'll buy the cat ears, which I totally bought the cat ears. So like, they made $20 out of me because I bought the cat ears. And like, like, I'd rather spend $20 on cat ears than an upgrade to Uncharted that I already own, that I could just play in 30 frames instead of 60 frames.
Yeah,
because I didn't spend $15.
But I mean, we talked about how they did Halo Infinite's microtransactions pretty poorly when it launched, and they had this great opportunity to kind of sell this, because they had this split in half campaign as part of Game Pass and free-to-play multiplayer. They could have made it less money grabby and just had this massive hit and got Halo back the recognition it deserves, but they didn't. They still at some point went, oh, we need to grab a bunch of money here, and it soured it a little bit. So they had an opportunity and they did the wrong thing. And
there's still an achievement that you can't earn because the game mode doesn't exist as yet. And what the hell? Come on. That's the real important thing here. Not so much. I talked about NFTs before. I just want to like really drag him through the mud. I don't know if you've seen this, Ben, but Troy Baker just randomly went on Twitter and is like, I'm going to be aligned with this NFT company called Voiceverse NFT, and it's going to be great. You can, like, grab NFTs in voice form, and NFTs, like, I hate NFTs to begin with, but his original tweet was like, you can hate or you can create, and it's just like, well, I choose to personally hate because this sounds awful. And it came to light like a couple days later that this company, Voiceverse NFT, was going to a free AI, 15.ai, and it's a website or a service where you can like upload samples, in my example of like Patrick Stewart from Star Trek, like saying Star Trek-y things. And then once it has enough sample, it can kind of like generate his voice or that character's voice to say whatever you input. And Voiceverse NFT was doing that with voice samples to create unique voices to then sell off as NFTs. And everything about this is garbage, I guess. Any thoughts about anything?
Yeah, I don't get NFTs at all. I don't know why you'd buy that. I don't know why you'd sell that. Obviously, someone does, but yeah, whatever's going on now, I don't know. Early 2022 is a weird time.
Well, and he didn't like necessarily. He said he was aggressive in his tweets and kind of apologized for that, but didn't, as far as I know, at the time of this, I didn't look, but at the time of writing, at least, he didn't really apologize for like the dodgy company that was giving him money to peddle NFTs. Don't buy NFTs, just for the record. I just don't know. Like, maybe I'm just old and I don't get crypto, but I certainly don't get NFTs, and I don't understand the need to own a thing that you can like right click and save if you really wanted to.
No.
But anyway, the last thing I want to talk about, actually, that's not even true. We were talking about Ubisoft before. Watch Dogs Legion came out, I believe, in October of 2020. Ubisoft has now said that support has ended already. This was going to be like the amazing game where you could play as anyone and be the grandma who was like hitting over, people over the head with a bottle and stuff.
Yeah.
It's done. It's absolutely done.
I think it's still it's an okay game. It wasn't its big, didn't deliver on its big promise, but it was fine. And it was pretty much all single player. Like, I'm sure there was some garbage online mode, which no one really cared about, and that's why they finished supporting it. But there's no need to continue to support these games, which don't need DLC, don't really need online multiplayer. I know you could go hack into people's worlds or whatever. It doesn't matter if they shut that down. Like, the core of the game, you can still play.
The only good thing about the game, no, that's not true. There's a lot of good things about the game, but it was kind of like the original Watch Dogs in that it didn't really fulfill its intent. I think Bloodline, the DLC with Aiden Pierce, the protagonist of the original Watch Dogs, was probably the most enjoyable bit of Watch Dogs Legion to me, which is like an oxymoron because you're playing as a specific character, you're locked into that character, and you're not being able to play as like the grandma or the construction worker or whatever else. Like, there was a focus that I think that Legion was missing. It's still really good, but it's not surprising. I'm personally very worried about Ubisoft. I feel like they've just made a whole bunch of wrong moves in the past couple months or to a year with like NFTs, with like weird Ghost Recon or Tom Clancy mashups that don't make sense, with like this weird push for things that none of us want, but they seem to think will make them a lot of money rather than just like
it's been a weird 2 or 3 years for them. Their last big hit was Valhalla, which was a great game. Bit bloated, as is the case with every Assassin's Creed, but still a great game, and it was by far the best launch title on Xbox because there was almost nothing else. And that's where their mistakes kind of started, because they released Watch Dogs right next to it. And they're so similar. And then like 2 or 3 weeks later, they released Phoenix Rising. So it was kind of like, here's 3 giant Ubisoft open world games, all 3 of them pretty good, but people are not going to just play them together like that. It didn't make any sense. And then since then, they seem to be like, well, no one wants to play these big single player games anymore, so we're just going to stop that, and we're going to do NFTs and whatever was trying to happen with Ghost Recon. Like, it's just it's a strange new direction they've gone on very suddenly. And it's probably going to be back to relying on Assassin's Creed yet again this year, because I'm sure it will be back. They're not going to have more than a year gap to kind of right that ship again. So we'll see what they do this year.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed Infinity, not Infinite, because that's Halo, which is like their kind of Halo Infinite style. Like, we're not going to make a new one. It's just going to keep building on this. Like, that could be good. Like, I do like an Assassin's Creed. Playing Dying Light 2, I know I was talking about that before. It's that kind of same mentality as your parkouring of like, what's the best path, and like that is enjoyable, and I still find that enjoyable in built-up areas in Assassin's Creed. There's a lot of good mechanics, but like just like some weird implementation across the board with them. But anyway, I wanted to finish off the news with a discussion. We kind of talked about our Game of the Year stuff, Ben, at the end of the last episode, but we didn't get all the way through. We're not going to go through every single one, but like, our Game of the Year for 2021 was Arcane's Deathloop, PS5 and PC. PS5 console exclusive, but like a non-Xbox game made by an Xbox game studio. Have you had a chance to play any more since we talked last? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
I finished it. Great game. Certainly in my top three for game of the year. Yeah, amazing. And once again, we did talk about it recently because I remember saying, like every Bethesda game, it has plummeted in value. So you can pick this up for about $30 now. And if you haven't done, you definitely should. A rare game on PlayStation where I actually like the trigger, like haptic feedback, because it's like minimally used, just like a little bit to go with. Because you only have a few weapons that you use most of the game really, along with your abilities, and it kind of works really well there. Where I've found pretty much every other game just overuses it and it's annoying. I kind of feel like my controller's broken.
Yeah.
So, a game that I think got that right. It's that you explore these same four different landscapes, or split up by times of day, which changes how things work. And it's that classic. I mean, I suppose Dishonored was kind of similar in that way. So it's exploring that same area that you've seen before, but something's different, and now you need to kind of figure out why and how it meshes together and which way you want to achieve something. And so, as much as it is a shooter, it's more of a puzzle game than a straightforward shooter. So, definitely worth playing. Probably Arcane's best game. I would say right up there with the two Dishonored games are great as well. So, very similar style, and yes, a worthy winner of Game of the Year.
What are your other two? I'm imagining Metroid Dread, or no?
Metroid Dread was my number one. I thought that was very good, and I finally finished Metroid Fusion. So I uh, bought that in 2003, I think, on Game Boy Advance. But I was too much of a pleb when I was a small child to actually get through. I just couldn't figure it out because I bought it because I like Prime so much, but that I just couldn't do like a 2D. You need to kind of actually know what to do because the map is just like a blob. Like it's actually quite hard to figure out what to do. So 19 years later, same game cart, I finally finished it. So that's more of an achievement than finishing Dread, which is similar difficulty, similar style, but much more modern and more approachable. Number two, I think I've changed my mind a few times. I was going to say Psychonauts 2. That may have slipped to fourth place because I think Hitman 3 should be in there. I feel like Hitman 3 was such a banger and it just kind of brought the whole trilogy together that we kind of forgot about it because it was released in January. So they're certainly there. You could probably interchange any of those, really. I think they're the four big hits for me of last year.
And I promise we don't get money for talking about Xbox Game Pass, but Hitman Trilogy, Hitman 1, 2, and 3, like the three latest IO Interactive Hitman games, which are all amazingly amazing, are now on Game Pass. So if you haven't played them before, you absolutely should. Hours and hours and hours of replayability. It's such a fun little sandbox to play in. And I haven't really got into 3 as much as I want to, but like I know that there's like a lot of
Good, yeah.
things that are flipped on their heads, which I'm like really excited to get into. I just haven't had a chance. I was going to do it over my Christmas break, but that didn't happen.
No time.
No. Xbox best Xbox game, like just of note, because we talked. Oh, actually, you played Ratchet and Clank? That won our PlayStation game. I haven't played it, so
Well, I would have had Deathloop win the PlayStation game, but yes, because it's a PlayStation game. Ratchet and Clank is the best looking game. It does look like a Pixar movie in motion. I think it was maybe a little overhyped. Like great, good fun to play, but you got to take into consideration this is a $125 game, so hold it to a higher account. And it's like people kind of think it's a great platformer. It's a terrible platformer. It's like a third-person combat game. There's like no platforming basically. So from that point of view, it was good, but more in your 7.5, 8 out of 10 range. I think. Deathloop much better.
we talked about Metroid. Best Xbox game, a three-way tie between, and like Xbox kind of loosely, because like I don't know, like the lines are blurring so much.
What a fence sitter! Three-way tie. Come on.
I wasn't just me; it was the whole team. Forza Horizon 5, Psychonauts 2, and Age of Empires 4. Which, like, I get the age love on PC. I absolutely adore Horizon and Psychonauts. So like I think I picked Psychonauts, but
I'd give it to Psychonauts.
yeah.
Forza Horizon 5 is a great game, but it's very much the same as Forza Horizon 4. So I think Psychonauts was more of a breath of fresh air.
A fresh air. Good, you did it me. And the best PC game was Inscription, which I absolutely agree with. I took my laptop with me, and Inscription was easily playable on Steam. Insane. Like I don't know how to talk about it without ruining it, but like definitely give it a go. It's so good. It's just like it's like an onion, just like all these layers that you peel back, like a Deathloop, but like stealthy Deathloop, not in like you're stealthing through the world, but like it's a stealthy reveal of what is at the core, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense.
Not really, but yeah.
It is mystery upon mystery, and it's very enjoyable to get to the bottom of what's going on. And it presents itself as different things, and those things drastically change as you progress through the game. It's quite enjoyable, and I feel like this is true. Australian made. I might be wrong, so sorry if I'm wrong. I digress.
Not a Saturday show, so that's fine.
This fortnight, which is a very loose term, it's more like this month in delays. It's been quiet because of the holiday break, of course, but we have 3 big delays. The first is Weird West, which is the Ralph Colantolio led game. I forget the name of the studio. Wolfeye, I think, is the name of the studio. He is one of the co-founders of Arcane, of Dishonored fame, etc. That game is delayed from January to March 2022. Stalker 2, which is the weird game that has just been in development forever as well, that was trying to do NFTs, that canceled NFTs, which will be on PC and Xbox, delayed from April to December 2022. And Dying Light 2 on Switch, which comes out the first week of February on every other platform. Sorry?
Is that a cloud game on Switch? Like, I can't imagine.
No, I think it's like a real game on Switch, and that's why it's delayed.
Oh, really?
Well, if it's cloud and delayed, that's even more problematic. But so no other platform is delayed. I think it's the 4th of February. I might be wrong. But Dying Light 2 on Switch is delayed to within 6 months from the release of the other platforms. So
Well, you say that, but you say no other platforms delayed, but this game has been delayed many times on other platforms, so I don't think we can give it that credit.
It's not out yet. It could still happen. That's actually true. That's fair enough.
Stalker 2 is actually a bigger hit than it seems there, because that was Xbox's like only game for the first half of the year, more or less. And as much as it's probably a little nicher than their other kind of that big AAA games, people would have tried it because it's on Game Pass and it's exclusive and it's first party game. So losing that, I can kind of see why, if this rumor with a lot of evidence, because the achievements for GoldenEye came up, if that's what they're going to use to plug it, I mean, decent, but like that's gonna get some buzz for the nostalgia for about 2 weeks and then probably fall away, unless it's unbelievably good. So we've gone, we've hyped up Xbox so much, and they had a great end to 21. But because of all their previous delays and PlayStation's bad end to last year, they now have an amazing start to this year. Like you get, we've got Gran Turismo at some point. You get
Horizon next month, isn't it? February.
Horizon, yes, it's almost out. So like they've got some real hits early in the year, and Xbox has absolutely nothing to compete against that now. So for all their many studios they own, they still haven't quite figured out how they're scheduling to kind of get the games coming out at the right time. And that's a matter of just, it takes time to get all these acquisitions to kind of work together, and COVID's caused delays. But certainly I think they kind of built the start of this year around that at least have Stalker, and not having that means maybe they can bring something in that they haven't announced yet, or something quick, which might be that GoldenEye. That'd be an obvious one because it's already ready to go. We've seen it already. But yeah, it's a weak start, and even the back half of the year, it's all basically around Starfield and Forza Motorsport coming back. So I hope there's a few things we don't know about yet from Xbox, because it's quite a weak year from what they've announced so far.
Yeah, thankfully, like 2022 is shaping up to be pretty good nonetheless. Like February is stacked, and I can't even think of anything apart from there's Horizon, obviously, which we talked about. There's Elden Ring. There's Destiny 2 The Witch Queen is coming out soon. All these things are multi-platform except for Horizon, obviously. There's more in February and March. Like February and March is stacked. I can't think of what it is. Help chat if you can. But then like there's Gotham Knights is supposed to come out this year, which is like I'm super excited about. It's the WB Montreal makers of Batman Arkham Origins, Robin, Batgirl, Nightwing, Red Hood, not Batman game, which is supposed to be really good, or looks really good to me. We said Elden Ring. That's not helpful. There's a ton of games coming out this year, theoretically. Maybe they'll get delayed. So like 2021 kind of seemed a little bit stagnant in terms of
A little dry, yeah.
stuff coming out, or like things that you thought were coming out that got delayed. So hopefully this year proves different. It might not be. It seems like we've been doing this like weird Deathloop kind of style loop of like, oh, we're almost out of this, like, and then we're not out of this, and oh, we're gonna work in the office again. We're not gonna work in the office again for a bit. Hopefully that all changes. I guess the good thing about all this, Lego Star Wars doesn't count either. Ugh. I mean, good for you if you like it, but ugh. You'd think that people are used to working in pandemic style, so the delays that you were used to seeing might be lessened
reduced.
because people are used to the ways of working now. But who knows? There's an Australian DLC coming for Microsoft Flight Simulator soon, and I kind of want to talk to I have an interview with the guys, and I kind of want to talk to them about that. Like, were things lessening when you're developing this update because you thought you were going to go back into the office and then Omicron like picked it back up, or like did you just fall back into how you're doing? It's complicated. So we're not criticizing, the delays and the weird schedule, but anyway,
it's a weird schedule, yeah.
Tis. Things coming up on the site. I wrote this thinking I could say all these things, but maybe I'll change this to games coming out very shortly. Wink, wink. Uncharted Legacy of Thieves, Dying Light 2, Ollie Ollie World, and I hear that Ghostwire Tokyo is coming out this year. So, unrelated, just head to Stevivor.com in the next couple weeks and check out things that could possibly be published about things. Who knows what's going on? Ben, thank you. I do always love talking to you. If you were watching the Twitch stream, you might have gotten Ben's side of our pre-show conversation. Sorry, nothing was revealed, but almost shitting bricks. But I'm glad I didn't have to. How do we find you on the internet?
Ben_Salter on Twitter, and yourself?
That's right, AU. You'll see that above our heads on the Twitch stream. It's been great. We'll see you in 2 weeks, and thanks for watching or listening, and goodbye.
Yeah, that's it.
What an ending.